Don't be afraid to fail. Winners don't fear failure. Athletes, entrepreneurs, and everyday people failed. No matter who you are, you've probably faced some obstacles in life. Today, I want to talk about something we all experience at some point: failure. It's something we often dread and try to avoid. Sometimes it feels like failure is the end of the road, like there's no way forward. But what if I told you that failure is actually the beginning? That failure could be your stepping stone to success. Let's talk about one of the most iconic examples of this: Arnold Schwarzenegger. We all know him as a legendary Hollywood actor, an award-winning bodybuilder, and even a former governor. But do you know how many times he failed before he became the success we know today? Let me take you back to the start. Arnold's early struggles. Arnold didn't start off as the world-renowned superstar. His journey was far from easy. When he first moved to the United States from Austria, he had a thick accent, spoke very little English, and had barely any money. People looked at him and saw someone who would never make it. But Arnold had something they didn't see: determination. He had a dream, and that dream was to become a champion bodybuilder. Now, imagine this. Arnold failed his first attempt at winning the prestigious Mr. Olympia competition. He wasn't the strongest, and he certainly wasn't the most popular. But did he quit? Number. Instead, he used that failure to motivate himself even more. He spent countless hours in the gym, training harder than ever. He didn't focus on what others thought of him. He kept his eyes on the prize and used every setback as fuel to push himself further. And guess what happened? Arnold didn't just win Mr. Olympia once, but 7 times. He became one of the most recognizable names in the world, inspiring millions with his story. The same man who faced rejection after rejection eventually became an international icon. The power of persistence. So why did Arnold succeed when others gave up? The answer is simple: persistence. He didn't let failure define him. Instead, he used each failure as a stepping stone, learning from it and coming back stronger. This is the kind of mindset that turns failure into an opportunity. It's not just Arnold. There are countless other examples of people who embraced failure on their path to greatness. Take Michael Jordan, for example. He was cut from his high school basketball team. Imagine that, arguably, the greatest basketball player of all time was once considered not good enough. But instead of letting that setback crush his spirit, Michael Jordan used it as motivation. He worked harder than anyone else, and his persistence led him to 6 NBA championships. These people didn't let failure stop them. They used it as fuel. And that's exactly what you should do. Why we fear failure. It's easy to be afraid of failure, right? We fear rejection, we fear judgment, and we fear looking foolish. We fear that we won't be good enough. But here's the thing. Fear of failure is one of the biggest barriers to success. If you're afraid to fail, you'll never take that first step. And if you never take that first step, you'll never know what you could achieve. So, what's the solution? You have to embrace failure. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of success. Every successful person has experienced failure, probably more times than they can count. But what they've done differently is learn from their failures and not let them stop them. Turning failures into lessons. Think about it. When you succeed, you don't necessarily learn much. But when you fail, you're forced to reflect. You figure out what went wrong, what you could have done differently, and how to improve. That's where real growth happens. Let's take Arnold Schwarzenegger's story a step further. After dominating bodybuilding, Arnold set his sights on Hollywood. But when he tried to break into acting, he was met with rejection after rejection. He was told his accent was too thick, his physique was too big, and that he didn't look like the typical leading man. Imagine how discouraging that must have been. But instead of letting that stop him, Arnold used each rejection to push harder. He trained to improve his acting, worked on his accent, and took on roles that would prove everyone wrong. And eventually, he became one of the most iconic action stars of all time. From The Terminator to Total Recall, Arnold showed the world that failure didn't define him. He learned from each rejection and used it as a stepping stone to success. The key to success: never quit. Here's the key takeaway. Success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about how you handle it. Arnold didn't have a smooth path. He faced rejection, doubt, and failure at every turn. But he used each one of those moments to learn, grow, and improve. And ultimately, that persistence led him to achieve greatness.